r/askreddit by Redmond Dtes. What is the scariest thing you witnessed with your own eyes? Finding my mom unresponsive 6 months ago and subsequently watching her die as a result. Neither cell phone or landline would connect to 911, so she was dead by the time we got through to anyone. It was 20 minutes but it felt like a lifetime, and now 6 months later I get the grief and the trauma with no mom to comfort me. Edited to add. Thank you everyone for the kind words and the recommendation of r/mom for a minute. I'm actually already in the sub and I've posted a few times. Thank you also for the awards. Helped a woman move out of her apartment maybe 90 minutes after the murder-suicide of her husband and son. Police were done, but the room had not been cleaned. A very sad and harrowing experience for me. When I was around 6, we were going to my grandparents' house. On the interstate, a woman seemed to fall out of a car in front of us. My dad had to swerve to avoid hitting her. That's all I saw with my own eyes. It turned out the woman's husband was trying to murder her and make it look like a suicide. The intention was for my dad to have run her over, but he has time to swerve. The husband had an accomplice behind us, but he couldn't hit her because of how my dad swerved. Some other good Samaritan stopped and gave the woman a ride to the hospital. The guy who gave her a ride and my dad were both called as witnesses at the trial. The husband and the accomplice were both convicted for conspiracy for attempted murder. Was there in the emergency room with someone close to me who had just died from a completely random brain aneurysm or seizure episode. Being there overlooking someone you know well, and had just spoken to hours earlier, with a flat line on the heart monitor is pretty terrifying. Especially when we had talked about death, as an idea concept, not long before. Car ablaze on side of road with passengers crawling out very slowly and on fire. My mom tried to kill herself in front of me. Watching my siblings hide away from what was going on was the only reason I stayed remotely sane. I'm glad they didn't see any of it. Stepdad hanged himself in front of my mum and me. I feel you. Working property insurance. I see death claims occasionally. Usually when someone tries to or successfully commits suicide. I had one where a mother and daughter were murdered by the daughter's ex-boyfriend. You could see the trails of blood in the hallway of the mom trying to drag herself to get help and where he caught her and shot her in the head. It was awful. I cried and ended up having to have the claim transferred to a more seasoned adjuster. Well, it wasn't me, but my friend noticed a vehicle in the parking lot at his work had been there a few days in the same spot. He walked up to it and found a man who blew his head off with a shotgun. Suicide note was on the dashboard. His work offered him counseling with a professional if he needed it, but he declined. He did tell me though months later he had a nightmare about it, but that was it, and he never really thought much about it after that. I was robbed at gunpoint, gun to the head, when I was like 14 during a visit to South America. It was another group of kids. What did they want? My soccer ball. My dad smashing a man's leg bones with a tire iron, then other things. Backstory, my dad isn't a big man, 5'6", 140 pounds or so. But my dad grew up tough and mean as fudge. Joined a local biker gang after the Navy kicked him out. We lived in this tiny house on the east side of Cleveland, rented to us by this freaking sleazeball. My parents are young, had me at 16. I was 6 when the landlord broke into our house and was going through my mom's underwear drawer. He had a thing for her, and kept trying stuff. My dad is working as a mechanic at the time and is on his way home. Dude's sitting there trying to come on to my mom. Dad walks in, sees the score. What commences is a Looney Tunes-esque style chase through the house. My dad wielding a tire iron over his head, silently closing in on this dude. Dude runs out of room, turns to fight. My dad gets him on the head first, then he blocks with his arm, bring his wrist. Guy falls down. Dad just kept going to work on him, smashed his kneecap and the tush and bones. Would have killed him if mom didn't scream. Dad got felony assault and 3 years. His friends kept my mom safe from our landlord for that time, even paid our rent once in a while. I thank God my kids don't know that life. Dad's doing good now, out of the gang but still rides. He's mellowed in his 50s. Good grandpa honestly. Guy pointed a revolver at my face and pulled the trigger. Thought for sure in that split second I was going to die. Driving up to an amusement park, Kings Island, there is this longer exit as it gets off the highway. My friend's mom just started getting on the exit lane and me and my buddy, probably around 10, watched this person jump in front of a semi. It was like the whole world just kinda stopped for those few moments. As we drove past the body, I fully remember the jeans around their ankle and the body just twitching. I really don't think I will ever forget the image. When I was a kid, I witnessed my drunk stepfather wielding a loaded shotgun with the safety off. It was pointed inches from the face of my dog, and he threatened to blow her head off right then and there. Fortunately, he didn't shoot her in front of me. Bad news is that she ran away, leaving her collar and tags behind. A few days later. Edit. Thank you all for your support. I was only 8 or 9 at the time, so I stood no chance against him. Thankfully, and to nobody's surprise, he died due to liver failure after decades of drug and alcohol abuse. A guy I was playing golf with had a massive heart attack on the tee box. He fell on the ground not moving, was foaming at the mouth and peed his pants. The fire truck and ambulance drove out on the course and saved him. Scary stuff. A woman vomiting so much blood that she was dying before my eyes. This was in the hospital. Somehow we managed to get her stable enough to get an emergency scope, and she lived. Was home alone as a teenager, during an aggravated burglary. Heard something slamming into front door. Went to go open it, and realized I had locked the wire screen door. So it seemed odd they were knocking so hard directly onto the wooden door. Instead looked out the window and to the side to see a heavy man that I did not recognize. I yelled out, "What did he want?" No answer. Yelled a few more times. He stopped. Then started shoulder ramming the door. I panicked and went to grab the phone. And a kitchen knife. But halfway to the kitchen, I heard a huge crash at the back end of the house. Meanwhile the ramming was still happening at the front door. Heard someone scurrying through the back of the house swearing. Panicking, I didn't want to get caught in the middle of the house by 2 people. So decided to burst out through the front door and bowl over whoever was out there. Knowing it was just one person, because I had seen him through the window. So that's what I did. Exploded out the front door, knocked the guy over and ran out into the street and to a neighbor's, and called the police. They were gone by the time the police arrived. Incidentally, they came back twice the next week, and again when I wasn't home. The neighbors told me. Ended up catching them, but definitely left a lasting fear in me. The 2018 earthquake in Alaska that lasted for a minute and a half. I was on the top floor of an old building, and the way everything was shaking and falling, I thought for sure the building was going to crumble beneath my feet. A minute and a half doesn't seem long, but it's an eternity when that's what you're seeing all around you. When I was 9, seeing my 8-year-old cousin rolling on the asphalt with a hole in his forehead after getting hit by a motorcycle that was going at 40 miles per hour. Anyone who is wondering, he is fine and he is turning 20 soon. A kid in preschool getting his skull bashed in by another 4-year-old with one of those big old wooden blocks. I've never seen so much blood. After that the wooden blocks got replaced by cardboard ones. 35 years later I still see it clearly. This reminds me of high school. Brother and sister were arguing on the bus. The sister took her metal lunchbox and hit him on the head as hard as she could. The corner of the lunchbox made contact, and it was an instant fountain of blood. I was standing 6 feet away and watched a full-size horse kick some kid in the face. The kid is now considered mentally challenged. When I was 7, my dad was driving me and my brother to a friend's birthday party. On the highway, we passed the worst vehicle accident I've ever seen to this day. A semi hit and ran over a motorcycle. The motorcyclist was torn to pieces. I've never been more horrified in my life. My father also drove a motorcycle at the time. He sold it because of what we saw. I saw a guy get hit by a car walking in downtown Victoria, British Columbia. The man flipped into the air, both his shoes flew off. He sat right up in the street, looking confused. Beheaded bodies 30 years ago during the war in Balkans. My uncle would agree with you. He was stationed in Bosnia for 1.5 years until he found his friend's head on a spike. He has been an alcoholic all my life because of what he witnessed down there. I hope you are doing good, man. That's all, folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more? Have a nice evening.